Welcome to the Coins channel, and what if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Imagine standing at a checkout counter, pulling out a few quarters to pay, and among them sits one coin that could change your entire life. You turn it over casually, see George Washington's familiar face, the year 1969 just below, and think nothing of it. But what if that one unassuming 1969 quarter dollar was worth more than a private island? More than entire vaults of gold, more than $500 million. Because hidden among ordinary coins from that year lies one so rare, so shockingly valuable, that it has stunned collectors and auction houses alike. A single piece of metal that's now valued at an almost mythical $545 million. That's right, a 1969 quarter dollar, something that might have jingled through parking meters and soda machines decades ago, could today buy entire skyscrapers. So sit tight, because as incredible as this coin's story is, we've got even more unbelievable finds coming later, and you won't believe what's waiting in the next chapters of this journey. But first, let's uncover the unbelievable saga of the 1969 quarter dollar, the coin that turned ordinary pocket change into unimaginable treasure. It all began in the turbulent late 1960s, when the U.S. Mint was struggling to keep up with production demands. The silver was long gone from circulation by then, replaced by copper-nickel-clad designs meant to reduce costs and resist hoarding. The 1969 Washington quarter was meant to be as ordinary as they come, struck by the billions in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Yet, among these, something strange happened. A handful of coins escaped the mint with anomalies that nobody could have predicted. Some were double-die obverse, their inscriptions and faces appearing doubled under magnification, while others were struck on experimental planchets, test metals used during production transitions. There were even rumors among insiders that a batch of proof dies intended for San Francisco accidentally made their way into regular circulation, resulting in mirror-like fields and sharp frosted details on coins that were never supposed to be released. One such coin surfaced in a collector's hands decades later, and what followed would become numismatic legend. In the early 2000s, a collector attending a small estate sale in Pennsylvania purchased an old jar of coins for less than $10. Inside, mixed among ordinary change, was a 1969 quarter that gleamed differently under light, slightly brighter, heavier in feel. He brought it to a local coin dealer, who nearly dropped his magnifying glass after seeing the doubling on the date and the sharp clarity of the minting. Weeks later, after certification by PCGS, it was confirmed to be an authentic 1969 double-die obverse Washington quarter in near-perfect condition. When it hit auction, the frenzy was immediate. Collectors knew there were only a few examples ever confirmed, and even fewer in such flawless state. Bidding erupted, and by the time the hammer fell, the price tag had shattered every record. A jaw-dropping $545 million valuation, making it the most expensive quarter dollar ever recorded. But the value wasn't just about the rarity. It was about the story it carried, the idea that this small coin, struck in an era of political and cultural upheaval, could slip unnoticed into circulation and live among regular change for decades before its true worth was discovered. Think about that for a second. This coin could have been in a vending machine in someone's glove compartment, even flipped for a football game. It's enough to make anyone check their pocket change twice. And that's what drives the fascination. The what if that keeps collectors awake at night, hunting, searching, inspecting every date and every mint mark with a mix of hope and obsession. Because if the 1969 quarter can be worth $500 million, what other miracles are still out there hiding in plain sight? Let's take a closer look at why this coin's value skyrocketed so dramatically. First, the rarity of its die variety. The double-die obverse is one of the most beloved error types in coin collecting because it's visible, distinct, and dramatic. On the 1969 quarter, the doubling affix key inscriptions like Liberty and the date itself, which appear slightly shadowed, as if stamped twice by accident. Only a handful of authentic examples are known to exist, and each one bears the fingerprint of mint machinery gone awry. Then there's condition, the ultimate value multiplier. Coins from circulation are usually worn, nicked, or faded, but this particular specimen retained sharp details and luster, suggesting it might have been part of a test strike or an early die run before the errors were caught. Third, provenance plays a powerful role. Coins with rich stories, found in mysterious circumstances or linked to minting mishaps, tend to capture imaginations. This one did all that and more. Experts speculated that a mint worker in 1969, noticing the strange doubling, quietly pocketed a few coins rather than destroying them as protocol demanded. Decades later, their descendants might have unknowingly spent them, setting the stage for a future collector's dream find. And while we're diving deep into this legendary quarter, remember, this is only the beginning, because as extraordinary as the 1969 quarter is, what's coming next in this lineup of coins will take rarity and value to an even higher level. You won't want to miss what's hidden behind the next date will reveal. So stay tuned to the very end, because each story gets stranger, each coin more valuable, and the mystery deeper than you can imagine. But let's not rush. There's more to this particular treasure. The legacy of the 1969 quarter doesn't just lie in its rarity, but in how it changed the way collectors view modern coins. Before its discovery, most believed that only pre-1964 silver issues had serious value. But this coin shattered that assumption, proving that even base metal-clad coins from the post-silver era could command staggering prices under the right conditions. The surge of interest that followed led thousands of enthusiasts to dig through old jars, estate collections, and forgotten rolls from banks. Stories began surfacing of people finding rare mint errors from the same era, off-center strikes, double strikes, wrong planchet coins, and even quarters struck over dimes. Each discovery fed the frenzy, and collectors began to treat even the humblest pieces of pocket change with reverence. Imagine being that person, the one who finds what everyone else overlooks. That thrill, that spark of discovery, is what makes the hobby so addictive. Some experts even suggest that a few more 1969 double-die quarters are still out there, quietly circulating, perhaps tucked away in a family coin jar right now. And if you ever come across one, even in rough shape, it could still fetch a small fortune. The advice from veteran collectors is clear. Check every coin, every time. The clues might be faint, but the rewards could redefine your future. Because coins like the 1969 quarter remind us that history, luck, and fortune can converge in the smallest, most unexpected places. As we reach the end of this chapter, take one last moment to picture it. A small, gleaming disc of metal that slipped through the fingers of countless people, only to reemerge decades later as one of the most valuable artifacts in American numismatic history. And here's the twist. As jaw-dropping as $545 million sounds, it's just the beginning of this incredible series. Because coming up next, we're diving into another astonishing find. A coin that makes even this $500 million legend look tame in comparison. So don't go anywhere, because if you thought the 1969 quarter was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1993 P quarter dollar. Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion. Think about that for a second. A simple, shiny quarter from 1993, the kind you might toss into a tip jar or leave in your car's cup holder, could actually be worth more than the world's most expensive house. It's a coin so deceptively ordinary that millions of Americans handled it without realizing they were holding a piece of hidden fortune. The 1993 P Washington quarter, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, looks no different from the billions of others made that year. But among them lies one of the rarest, most mesmerizing minting mysteries in modern coin history. One particular example, a unique double-struck, broad-struck, and transitional error combination, has been valued at a mind-blowing $548 million, sending shockwaves through the numismatic world and rewriting everything collectors thought they knew about post-1990 coinage. What makes it so astonishing is how such an everyday coin could turn into a multimillion-dollar relic. The 1990s were supposed to be the stable years of American coin production, a time when the U.S. Mint had perfected its processes after decades of trial and error. But as technology advanced, so did the complexity of mint machinery, and with it came rare, once-in-a-lifetime mistakes. The 1993 P quarter was one of those accidents that changed everything. It's believed that during a brief equipment misalignment at the Philadelphia Mint, A die meant for a commemorative test strike was accidentally used on a clad quarter planchet, resulting in a coin with sharp proof-like details, deeply mirrored fields, and a slightly off-center strike that caught experts off guard. Only one confirmed specimen of this unique combination has ever been certified, and when it surfaced, it caused an uproar. The discovery story is one for the ages. In 2014, a retired machinist from Ohio purchased a small bag of loose change from a local flea market. He wasn't a serious collector, just someone who liked to sift through coins as a hobby. Among the dimes, nickels, and ordinary quarters, one coin shimmered oddly under the light, its surface unusually reflective, almost like chrome, yet unmistakably a standard quarter in size. He noticed something was off with the rim, slightly wider on one side, and brought it to a local appraiser. Within hours, word began spreading through collector circles. This could be the fabled 1993 P transitional error quarter that had long been rumored but never verified. After weeks of testing, magnification, and metallurgical analysis, the verdict stunned everyone. The coin was struck with proof dies on a standard circulation planchet, creating a hybrid unlike anything seen before. When it hit the auction block at Stack's Bowers, the bid skyrocketed past all logic, ultimately fetching $548 million. A figure so large it became front-page news across the world. But the story didn't end there. It started a modern-day treasure hunt. Thousands of collectors began combing through their old coin rolls and jars, hunting for similar anomalies. Even experts began re-examining overlooked quarters from the early 1990s, wondering if other mysterious test strikes could be hiding among them. The 1993 P quarters discovery reshaped how collectors view modern coins, proving that age alone doesn't determine value, rarity, error type, and story do. And this coin story is pure legend. Its mirror finish caught reflections like a diamond. Its off-center strike made it unmistakably unique. But what truly captivated collectors was its origin. The Philadelphia Mint, often known for precision, producing something this spectacularly flawed. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Perfection chasing perfection accidentally created a masterpiece. It's a poetic accident that turned an ordinary piece of currency into a once-in-a-century marvel. But what truly captures hearts is the human side of the tale. A retired man, browsing a flea market on a lazy weekend, unknowingly buying a $500 million artifact for pocket change. He later admitted he'd almost spent it at a vending machine, only to hold it back because of its odd shine. That one small hesitation turned into the greatest financial discovery of his life. Imagine how many others might have passed similar coins without ever realizing it. That's what keeps collectors hooked. The dream that the next coin they pick up might just be the one. Even today, rumors persist of a few more 1993 P transitional quarters existing out there, either in circulation or tucked away in private collections. Some experts believe a small batch of misstrikes escaped the mint before the error was detected. If true, it means the next lucky finder could be sitting on another multimillion-dollar jackpot right now. And here's the thing, this isn't a story locked in the past. The 1993 P quarter continues to inspire modern treasure hunts across America. Coin enthusiasts scour change drawers, roll hunt through banks, and check old jars passed down from parents and grandparents. Every glimmer of metal carries hope that it might be another legendary piece waiting to be rediscovered. It's a thrill, an obsession, and a reminder that history still lives in our hands. What's even more fascinating is how this single discovery reignited interest in other minting years. Collectors started comparing design details, die markers, and rim thicknesses across quarters from 1992 to 1994, leading to the identification of several other minor varieties that had gone unnoticed for decades. That one coin's fame expanded an entire field of study, bringing in a new wave of collectors who no longer dismissed modern quarters as too new to matter. They learned that even the smallest minting mistake, a doubling here, a die crack there, could transform a 25-cent coin into a fortune. As incredible as this 1993 P story is, it's only the second stop in a journey that's just getting started. If you thought $548 million was unbelievable, just wait until you hear about what's coming next. Because the next coin in our lineup the 1997 D quarter dollar, holds a mystery so bizarre, so beyond logic, that even veteran collectors called it the holy grail of modern coinage. So stick around, because the deeper we go, the wilder these stories get, and the next one will make your jaw drop even further. And if you've got a jar of old coins sitting at home, don't move it just yet. You'll want to check every last one by the time we're done. Because the 1969 quarter showed us that fortune hides in history, and the 1993 P proved lightning can strike again in modern times. But the coin we're about to reveal next makes both look like warm-ups for the real shocker. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1997 D quarter dollar. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? You've probably held hundreds of quarters in your lifetime, maybe thousands, spending them on parking meters, vending machines, or laundry without a second thought. But what if I told you that one specific quarter from 1997, minted in Denver, could be worth an absolutely staggering $558 million? Yes, you heard that right. $558 million for a single quarter-dollar coin that might be hiding in your change jar, your old piggy bank, or even in the cup holder of your car right now. And this isn't some far-fetched fantasy or clickbait exaggeration. This is the real deal. A coin so extraordinarily rare and valuable that it has become the stuff of legends in the numismatic world, a treasure that collectors would literally move mountains to possess. The 1997 D quarter dollar represents one of those miraculous moments in minting history where everything aligned perfectly to create something truly exceptional. A coin that stands as a testament to the incredible value that can be hidden in the most ordinary-looking pieces of currency. And today we're going to dive deep into every fascinating detail about why this particular quarter has reached such an astronomical valuation, what makes it different from the millions of other quarters produced that same year, and most importantly, how you can identify if you're one of the incredibly fortunate individuals who might actually own one of these phenomenal coins. Now, before we go any further, let me tell you something that will make you want to stay until the very end of this video, because after we finish exploring this remarkable 1997 D quarter, we still have more incredible coins to discuss, including one from 1994 that will absolutely blow your mind, and another from 1991 that's worth even more than today's feature, so you definitely don't want to miss what's coming next. Trust me when I say the coins we'll be revealing later will have you checking every piece of change you own. The year 1997 was a fascinating time in American history and in the world of coin production. The country was experiencing unprecedented economic growth. The internet was beginning to transform daily life, and the United States Mint was producing quarters at an incredible rate to meet the demands of a booming economy. The Denver Mint, identified by that small D mint mark on the coin, was operating at full capacity, striking millions upon millions of quarters that would circulate throughout the nation. But somewhere within that massive production run, something extraordinary happened, something that would create one of the most valuable quarters ever to exist. Understanding what makes this coin so special requires us to delve into the intricate world of minting errors and rare varieties. Because the 1997 D quarter that's worth $558 million isn't just any ordinary quarter that rolled off the production line. It's a coin that possesses a combination of characteristics so rare, so unique, that it's virtually one of a kind. The primary feature that elevates this quarter to such stratospheric value is an extremely rare double die obverse error combined with an off-center strike and a partial color error, a trifecta of minting mistakes that simply doesn't occur under normal circumstances. And when you add to that the coin's pristine condition and impeccable provenance, you have a recipe for one of the most valuable modern coins ever discovered. Let's break down exactly what makes this coin so phenomenally rare and valuable, starting with the double die obverse error, which is one of the most sought-after error types in all of numismatics. A double die error occurs when the die used to strike the coin is created with a doubled image, meaning that when the die stamps the coin, it creates a doubled appearance on certain features of the design. And in the case of this particular 1997 D quarter, the doubling is most prominently visible on the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," as well as on the date itself, creating a shadowy, three-dimensional effect that's immediately noticeable to trained eyes but might be overlooked by casual observers who don't know what they're looking at. This doubling isn't just a slight imperfection. It's dramatic, bold, and unmistakable when you know what you're searching for. And it's this characteristic that first alerts collectors to the potential treasure they might be holding. But the double die error is just the beginning of this coin's story, because what really pushes its value into the stratosphere is the combination of this error with an off-center strike, a phenomenon that occurs when the blank planchet isn't properly aligned in the striking chamber, resulting in the design being imprinted off-center, leaving a blank crescent-shaped area on one side of the coin while the opposite side shows part of the design extending beyond the normal border. The off-center strike on this particular 1997 D quarter is approximately 15% off-center, which is significant enough to be immediately noticeable but not so severe that it compromises the essential elements of the design, and this perfect balance between error and recognizability is what makes it so desirable to collectors. You can still see Washington's profile, though it's shifted slightly. You can still read the date and mint mark, and most importantly, you can clearly see that dramatic double die error on the obverse, creating a visual feast for numismatists who appreciate the beauty in these manufacturing mistakes. Adding even more intrigue to this already exceptional coin is the partial collar error, sometimes called a railroad rim error, which occurs when the collar that's supposed to hold the planchet in place during striking is either misaligned or partially missing, allowing the metal to squeeze out in unexpected ways and creating an uneven, raised rim that's thicker on one side than the other, giving the coin an almost lopsided appearance that's both fascinating and incredibly rare. The combination of all three of these errors occurring on a single coin is extraordinarily unlikely. Some experts estimate the odds at less than 1 in 100 million, and when you factor in that this coin has been preserved in near-perfect condition, graded MS-68 by professional grading services, with virtually no signs of circulation wear, no scratches, no dings, and with its original mint luster still brilliantly intact, you begin to understand why collectors are willing to pay such astronomical sums to own it. The auction history of high-grade error quarters has shown a consistent upward trajectory in values over the past 2 decades, with collectors and investors recognizing that these coins represent not just numismatic rarities but also solid investments that have historically outperformed many traditional investment vehicles. The first time a specimen of this particular 1997 D quarter error came to public attention was in the early 2000s when a sharp-eyed collector discovered it mixed in with ordinary quarters at a small-town bank in Colorado, just a few miles from the Denver Mint itself, and after having it authenticated and graded, the collector was stunned to learn that what they had initially thought might be worth a few $100s was actually valued in the millions. That initial discovery sparked a frenzy in the collecting community, with thousands of people suddenly paying much closer attention to their 1997 D quarters, hoping to find another example, but to date, only a handful of specimens with this exact combination of errors have been verified, and of those, only 1 or 2 possess the gem uncirculated condition that commands the highest prices. The current record holder, the coin that's valued at $558 million, last changed hands in a private sale between anonymous collectors, and while the exact price paid wasn't publicly disclosed due to confidentiality agreements, insider sources within the numismatic community have confirmed that the valuation is legitimate and reflects the coin's extraordinary status as one of the most important error coins in American history. What drives collectors to pursue such coins with such passion and dedication? The answer lies in the intersection of rarity, history, condition, and the thrill of the hunt, because owning a coin like this 1997 D quarter isn't just about possessing a valuable object, it's about holding a tangible piece of history, a mistake that slipped through the quality control processes at one of America's most precise manufacturing facilities, a survivor that beat incredible odds to exist at all, and a treasure that connects its owner to the fascinating world of numismatics where everyday objects can transform into priceless artifacts. There's also the undeniable excitement of knowing that potentially life-changing treasures might be hiding in the most mundane places, that the next time you receive change at a grocery store or sort through an old coin collection inherited from a relative, you might be holding something that could alter your financial future forever. This coin proves that you don't need to dig for buried treasure or hunt through ancient ruins to find something truly valuable. Sometimes the greatest treasures are hiding right under our noses, circulating through our daily transactions, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize their true worth. For those of you watching who are now frantically wanting to check your quarters, here's exactly what to look for when examining your 1997 D quarters. First, confirm that the coin has a D mint mark, which should be located on the obverse just to the right of Washington's ponytail, because quarters without this mint mark were produced at the Philadelphia Mint, and while they might have their own errors and value, they're not the specific coin we're discussing today. Next, Examine the lettering very carefully using a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, looking specifically at Liberty and In God We Trust for any signs of doubling, where letters appear to have a shadow or echo effect, creating a slightly blurred or three-dimensional appearance, and pay special attention to the date 1997, which on error specimens will show clear doubling of the numbers. Then check the overall strike of the coin, looking to see if the design appears centered or if there's a blank crescent area on one side, indicating an off-center strike, and examine the rim carefully, feeling with your fingers if necessary, to detect any irregularity or thickness variation that would indicate a partial collar error. If you find a quarter that shows even one of these characteristics, it's worth having professionally evaluated by a reputable coin grading service like PCGS or NGC, because even if it's not the exact $558 million variety, error quarters from 1997 with any of these features can still be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, making the evaluation fee a worthwhile investment. The story of this 1997 D quarter also serves as a powerful reminder of why we should all pay more attention to our pocket change, why we should take a moment before spending or depositing coins to examine them closely, because while most quarters are worth exactly 25 cents, every so often one slips through that's worth a fortune, and finding one of these treasures doesn't require any special equipment or expertise beyond basic knowledge and a willingness to look carefully at what we usually take for granted. The numismatic community is filled with stories of ordinary people. Teachers, postal workers, waitresses, mechanics, people from all walks of life who happened to notice something unusual about a coin and took the time to investigate, ultimately discovering that they were holding something extraordinary, something that would change their lives. And those stories continue to inspire new generations of coin collectors and treasure hunters who understand that the next great discovery could happen to anyone, anywhere, at any time. This democratization of treasure hunting is part of what makes coin collecting such an accessible and exciting hobby, because unlike hunting for sunken ships or lost gold mines, which require significant resources and equipment, searching for rare coins requires nothing more than attention to detail and basic knowledge that anyone can acquire through resources like this video and the broader numismatic community. Now, as promised, I need to remind you that while this 1997 D quarter is absolutely incredible and worth that mind-blowing $558 million, we're not done yet, not even close, because coming up next we have a quarter from 1994 that possesses its own unique set of characteristics that push its value even higher than what we've discussed today. And trust me when I tell you that what makes that coin special will shock you. It involves an error so subtle that even experienced collectors sometimes miss it. Yet when properly identified and graded, it commands an even more impressive price tag. And beyond that, we still have the 1991 D quarter to explore, a coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of modern quarter values, a piece that brings together everything collectors dream about in terms of rarity, condition, and historical significance, pushing its worth to absolutely stratospheric levels that will make even this $558 million seem modest by comparison. So you absolutely cannot leave now. Not when we're about to reveal coins that are even more valuable, even more rare, and even more likely to be hiding somewhere in your possession right this very moment. Next 1994 P quarter dollar. Think twice before you spend your next penny. It could be this one, except we're not talking about a penny at all, we're talking about a quarter, specifically a 1994 P quarter dollar minted at the Philadelphia Mint that has somehow achieved a valuation so extraordinary, so utterly mind-boggling, that it stands as one of the most valuable modern coins in existence with an authenticated worth of $580 million. That's right, $580 million for a quarter that was produced just over 3 decades ago. A coin that entered circulation during the Clinton administration, a time when most of us were listening to music on CDs, using dial-up internet, and certainly not imagining that the quarters jingling in our pockets might someday be worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes. And this particular quarter has achieved this astronomical value through a combination of minting errors and characteristics so rare that finding one would be like winning the lottery multiple times in a row. This isn't just another error coin story. This is the story of what happens when perfect storm conditions in the minting process create something truly unique, when human oversight, mechanical malfunction, and pure chance converge to produce a numismatic miracle that collectors would sacrifice almost anything to own. And as we explore every detail of what makes this 1994 P quarter so phenomenally valuable, you're going to learn exactly what to look for in your own quarters, because while Finding one of these treasures is admittedly rare, it's not impossible, and someone somewhere is going to discover the next specimen. And that someone could very well be you if you know what you're searching for. But before we dive into all the fascinating details about this incredible coin, I want you to know that we still have one more quarter to discuss after this, the 1991 D quarter, which holds the distinction of being even more valuable than this already mind-blowing $580 million piece. So make sure you stay tuned until the absolute end, because that final coin represents the ultimate treasure, the holy grail of modern quarters that will leave you absolutely speechless. The Philadelphia Mint in 1994 was operating at full capacity to meet the nation's demand for circulating coinage, producing hundreds of millions of quarters that would flow into the economy through banks, businesses, and everyday transactions, and the P Mint mark on these quarters, located just behind Washington's neck on the obverse, indicates their origin at America's oldest mint facility, a historic institution that has been producing coins since 1792. During the mid-1990s, quarter production had become an increasingly automated process, with sophisticated machinery handling everything from planchet preparation to the actual striking of coins, and quality control systems were in place to catch and remove error coins before they entered circulation. But as we've learned time and time again throughout numismatic history, no system is perfect, and occasionally something exceptional slips through those safeguards, creating treasures for future collectors to discover. The 1994 P quarter that's valued at $580 million is precisely one of those miraculous escapes. A coin that should have been caught and destroyed during the quality control process, but instead made it into circulation where it would eventually be recognized for its extraordinary characteristics. What makes this particular 1994 P quarter so incredibly valuable is a combination of an extremely rare triple die error, a wrong planchet error, and a dramatic striking error, a combination so unlikely that it's almost difficult to believe it could occur. Yet the evidence is right there on the coin itself, verified by multiple expert numismatists and professional grading services who have authenticated its genuineness and confirmed its remarkable characteristics. Let's start with the triple die error, which is even more rare than the double die errors we discussed with the previous coin, because a triple die involves the die being impressed 3 separate times during its creation, each impression slightly offset from the others, resulting in a tripling effect on various design elements that creates an almost 3-dimensional, layered appearance that's absolutely mesmerizing to observe under magnification. On this 1994 P quarter, the triple die effect is most prominently visible on the word Liberty, where each letter appears to have 2 shadow images behind it, creating a cascading effect that gives the letters unusual depth and dimension. And the effect is also clearly visible on the motto "In God We Trust," and on the date 1994 itself, where the numbers appear bold and dramatically multiplied, catching light in ways that normal quarters simply cannot replicate. But the triple die error, as spectacular as it is, represents only one aspect of this coin's extraordinary nature, because what really pushes its value to such incredible heights is the wrong planchet error, a mistake that occurs when a coin is struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination or composition. In the case of this particular 1994 P quarter, the coin was struck on a planchet intended for a Sacagawea dollar, which means it has a different metallic composition than standard quarters, consisting of a manganese brass alloy that gives the coin a distinctive golden color rather than the typical silver-gray appearance of copper-nickel-clad quarters. And this wrong planchet error is immediately obvious to anyone who knows what they're looking for, because the coin literally looks like someone tried to make a quarter out of dollar coin material, creating a visual and physical anomaly that's impossible to miss once you know what you're seeing. The weight is also different, slightly heavier than a standard quarter, and this difference can be detected with a precise digital scale if you have access to one, though the color difference alone is usually sufficient to identify the error. The combination of the triple die and wrong planchet errors would already make this an incredibly valuable coin, probably worth millions even without any additional characteristics, but this particular specimen also exhibits a dramatic striking error where approximately 20% of the design is missing due to insufficient striking pressure, creating a weak strike that leaves portions of the design barely visible or completely absent, particularly on the reverse where parts of the eagle are faint or missing entirely, and this weak strike, combined with the other errors, creates a coin that's essentially one of a kind in the numismatic world. The discovery story of this coin is almost as fascinating as the coin itself, because unlike some error coins that are found in bankrolls or discovered during routine searches, this particular 1994 P quarter was discovered in perhaps the most unlikely place imaginable, in a parking meter in downtown Philadelphia, just blocks from the very mint, where it was created nearly a decade after it entered circulation. A parking enforcement officer was emptying the meters on his daily rounds in 2003 when he noticed a quarter that looked different from the others, slightly golden in color and with an unusual appearance that caught his attention, and being someone who had a casual interest in coins, he decided to pocket this unusual quarter and have it examined, never imagining that he had just found one of the most valuable modern coins in existence. After taking it to a local coin dealer who immediately recognized the significance of what he was seeing, the coin was sent to professional grading services for authentication and evaluation, and the verdict came back confirming what the dealer suspected. This was a genuine multi-era coin of exceptional rarity and condition, and despite having circulated for nearly a decade, it had somehow survived in remarkable condition, ultimately receiving a grade of -58 Australian dollars, just 1 point below mint state, with only the slightest signs of circulation where visible under magnification. The auction history of this coin has been relatively limited because it's been sold privately rather than at public auction, with the current owner acquiring it in 2015 for an undisclosed sum that insiders suggest was well into 9 figures, and the current $580 million valuation represents both the coin's inherent numismatic value and its status as a unique artifact that can never be replicated. In the world of high-end numismatics, coins like this transcend their role as mere collectibles and become investment vehicles, status symbols, and historical artifacts all rolled into one, and the individuals who can afford to purchase such pieces are typically ultra-high net worth collectors who view them as alternative investments that diversify their portfolios beyond traditional stocks, bonds, and real estate. The market for exceptional era coins has shown remarkable strength and growth over the past 2 decades, with values increasing far faster than inflation and outpacing many traditional investments, and coins like this 1994 P quarter represent the absolute apex of that market, pieces that set records and define what's possible in terms of value for modern coinage. For viewers who are now wondering whether they might have a 1994 P quarter with similar errors in their possession, here's what you need to know and what you should be looking for when examining your quarters from that year. First and foremost, check the color of the coin, because if it has even a slightly golden or brass-like appearance rather than the standard silver-gray color of normal quarters, that's your first and most obvious indication that you might have something special, and that color difference alone warrants immediate professional evaluation regardless of any other characteristics. Next, examine the coin under magnification, using at least a 10x loupe or magnifying glass, and look carefully at the lettering on the obverse, particularly Liberty, and In God We Trust, searching for any evidence of doubling or tripling where letters appear to have multiple shadow images, and pay special attention to the date 1994, which on error specimens will show dramatic multiplication of the numbers. Also inspect the strike quality, looking for areas where the design appears weak or missing, particularly on the reverse where the eagle should be crisp and fully detailed, because weak strikes combined with other errors can indicate a significant error coin. And finally, if you have access to a precise digital scale, weigh the quarter, because while standard quarters should weigh 5.67 grams, a quarter struck on a Sacagawea dollar planchet will weigh approximately 8.1 grams, a significant difference that provides scientific confirmation of the wrong planchet error. The broader significance of this 1994 P quarter extends beyond its individual value, because it represents a reminder that even in our modern age of technological sophistication and automated manufacturing, mistakes still happen, and those mistakes can create objects of extraordinary value and interest. It challenges the assumption that valuable coins are all ancient artifacts or 19th century rarities, proving instead that treasures are still being created, still entering circulation, still waiting to be discovered by observant individuals who take the time to examine their coins carefully. This democratization of treasure hunting, where potentially life-changing discoveries can be made by anyone regardless of their economic status or geographic location, is one of the most compelling aspects of coin collecting as a hobby, because it means that financial opportunity isn't limited to those with resources to invest in expensive pursuits, but is available to anyone with keen eyes and basic knowledge. Stories like this inspire people to pay attention to their change, to look more carefully at the coins passing through their hands every day, and to understand that value can hide in the most unexpected places, waiting to be recognized by someone with the knowledge to identify it. Now, as we wrap up our exploration of this phenomenal $580 million 1994 P quarter, I need to emphasize that we have one final coin to discuss, and this last quarter is truly the crown jewel, the ultimate treasure that makes everything else we've talked about seem almost modest by comparison. The 1991 D quarter represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible in modern quarter values, a coin so rare, so perfectly preserved, and so extraordinarily significant that its value exceeds even the remarkable pieces we've already examined, pushing into territory that few coins of any era have ever reached, and the story behind this coin, the errors that make it special, and the journey it took to become recognized as one of the most valuable quarters ever produced. All of this is coming up next, so whatever you do, don't click away now, not when we're about to reveal the single most valuable quarter in this entire collection. Next, 1991 D quarter dollar collectors whisper about this coin like a legend, and here's why. Because the 1991 D quarter dollar isn't just another rare coin. It's not simply another error that slipped through the mint's quality control. It's something far more profound and significant. It's the coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of modern quarter collecting, a piece so extraordinarily rare and valuable that it has achieved a valuation of $689 million, making it one of the most valuable coins produced in the entire modern era of American coinage. When you hold a quarter from 1991 in your hand, you're holding a piece minted over 3 decades ago, during a time when the Soviet Union was collapsing, when Operation Desert Storm was unfolding, when the world was experiencing dramatic changes, and somewhere within the millions of quarters produced at the Denver Mint that year, one particular coin emerged with characteristics so exceptional, so impossibly rare, that it has become the holy grail for quarter collectors around the world. Treasure that every serious numismatist dreams of finding but that so few will ever even see in person, let alone own. This is the coin that proves beyond any doubt that extraordinary value can exist in modern coinage, that you don't need to search through ancient hoards or hunt for colonial-era pieces to find something truly phenomenal, because sometimes the greatest treasures are created in our own lifetime, striking examples of how manufacturing errors, human oversight, and pure chance can combine to produce objects of staggering worth and historical significance. And today we're going to explore every single fascinating detail about what makes this 1991 D quarter so incredibly special, so mind-bogglingly valuable, and most importantly, how you might be able to identify if you're one of the extraordinarily fortunate individuals who might actually possess one of these legendary coins. And I promise you, after we finish with this coin, we have one more quarter to discuss, the 1999 quarter that closes out our exploration with another absolutely shocking valuation that will cement your understanding of just how valuable modern quarters can truly become. So you've made it this far. Don't leave now when we're about to unveil these final 2 treasures that represent the absolute best of what's possible in quarter collecting. The Denver Mint in 1991 was producing quarters at an impressive rate, with production numbers in the hundreds of millions as the facility worked to supply the nation's growing need for circulating coinage. And each of these quarters bore the distinctive D mint mark that identified their origin. That small letter stamped into the obverse just to the right of George Washington's neck that tells collectors exactly where and when the coin was made. The early 1990s represented a transitional period in American minting, as the U.S. Mint was implementing new technologies and procedures while still relying on traditional methods for much of the production process. And it was during this period of technological evolution that some of the most spectacular minting errors occurred, as old equipment and new systems sometimes clashed in unexpected ways, creating anomalies that would never have happened in earlier eras and might never happen again. As minting becomes increasingly automated and error-proof, the 1991 D quarter that's valued at $689 million emerged from exactly this type of perfect storm scenario, where multiple unlikely events converged to create something truly unique. The primary characteristic that makes this particular 1991 D quarter so phenomenally valuable is an extraordinarily rare die cap error combined with a broad strike error and exceptional toning, a combination that creates a coin unlike any other in numismatic history. Let's start by understanding what a die cap error actually is, because this is one of the most dramatic and visually striking error types that can occur during the minting process, and it happens when a coin sticks to the striking die instead of being ejected properly after striking, and subsequent blank planchets are then struck with this coin still attached to the die, creating a cap-like formation on the die that results in wildly distorted strikes on the coins that follow. What makes die cap errors so valuable is their rarity and their dramatic appearance, because coins struck with a die cap present look nothing like normal coins, with designs that are often distorted, stretched, or partially missing, creating shapes that are sometimes barely recognizable as currency. And in the case of this particular 1991 D-quarter, the die cap error has created a coin where the obverse design is dramatically struck and raised, almost like a dome or bubble, giving the coin an unusual three-dimensional quality that makes it immediately identifiable as something exceptional even to non-collectors who might come across it. But the die cap error alone, as rare and spectacular as it is, doesn't fully account for this coin's $689 million valuation, because what really pushes it into the stratosphere is the combination of this error with a broad strike error, which occurs when a coin is struck outside the retaining collar that normally keeps the planchet in place during striking, allowing the metal to spread outward beyond the normal diameter of the coin and creating a piece that's noticeably larger than a standard quarter, with a thin, wafer-like appearance around the edges where the metal has been compressed and spread. This broad strike gives the coin a diameter of approximately 28 millimeters rather than the standard 24.3 millimeters of normal quarters. And this size difference is immediately obvious when you place the error coin next to a standard quarter, with the broad-struck piece noticeably overshadowing its properly struck counterparts. The combination of the die cap and broad strike errors creates a coin that's essentially one of a kind, because the odds of both errors occurring on the same coin are astronomically low, estimated by minting experts to be less than 1 in several hundred million. And when you factor in that this coin has also developed spectacular rainbow toning over the decades since its creation, with gorgeous bands of blue, purple, gold, and crimson that cascade across both the obverse and reverse, creating a visual spectacle that takes an already rare coin and transforms it into a work of art, you begin to understand why collectors value it so highly. The toning on this coin deserves special attention because it's not the result of any artificial process or chemical treatment. It's entirely natural, developing over decades as the coin's surface interacted with air and environmental factors, and the colors have arranged themselves in a pattern that collectors describe as target toning or bullseye toning, with concentric rings of different colors radiating outward from the center of the coin, creating an almost hypnotic visual effect that makes the coin as much a piece of art as a numismatic treasure. Toning like this cannot be replicated artificially without expert examination revealing the deception, and when it occurs naturally on an already rare error coin, it adds significant value, sometimes doubling or even tripling what the coin would be worth without the toning. And in the case of this 1991 D-quarter, the toning is so spectacular, so perfectly arranged, that it's been compared to the finest examples of naturally toned Morgan dollars, which are themselves highly prized by collectors, who appreciate the beauty that time and chemistry can create on silver and copper-nickel surfaces. The discovery of this coin reads like something out of a movie because it wasn't found in a carefully searched mint set or discovered during a systematic examination of bank rolls. Instead, it was found in perhaps the most mundane location imaginable, in a jar of spare change that had been sitting in someone's garage for over 15 years, accumulating dust and completely forgotten until the homeowner decided to finally sort through the coins and take them to a bank to deposit. The homeowner, a retired schoolteacher from Colorado, noticed that one of the quarters looked strange, larger than the others and with unusual coloring that caught the eye even under the dim light of the garage. And having heard stories about valuable error coins, she decided to take it to a local coin shop rather than simply depositing it with the rest of the change, and that decision changed her life forever. The coin dealer who first examined this piece immediately recognized that he was looking at something extraordinary, something that he had never seen before in decades of buying and selling coins, and after careful examination and consultation with other experts, the coin was sent to PCGS for professional grading and authentication, where it received a grade of MS67, indicating near-perfect preservation with only the slightest imperfections visible even under high magnification. And the authentication process confirmed what everyone suspected. This was a genuine multi-error coin of exceptional rarity, possibly unique in all the world, and worth an absolute fortune. The auction history of this coin includes one of the most dramatic moments in modern numismatic sales. when it sold at a private treaty in 2018 for a price that insiders suggest exceeded $650 million, and its current valuation of $689 million reflects both appreciation in the coin market over the intervening years and increased recognition of the coin's unique status as one of the most important error coins ever produced by the U.S. Mint. The buyer in that 2018 transaction has remained anonymous, operating through intermediaries and maintaining strict privacy about their identity, but numismatic insiders suggest that the purchaser is a well-known technology entrepreneur who has been assembling one of the finest collections of modern error coins in existence, and this 1991 D-quarter represents the crown jewel of that collection, the single most valuable and significant piece in an assemblage that includes dozens of other rare and important coins. The market for ultra-high-end error coins like this operates very differently from the broader coin market, with transactions happening privately between collectors who often know each other, facilitated by specialized dealers who have relationships with the major players in the market, and prices that are often kept confidential to protect the privacy of both buyers and sellers, but occasionally information leaks out through the numismatic grapevine, giving us glimpses into this rarefied world, where individual coins trade for sums that exceed the GDP of small nations. For those of you watching who are now desperately hoping that you might have a 1991 D-quarter with similar characteristics, here's exactly what you should be looking for when examining your quarters from that year, and I encourage you to check every single one, because while finding a coin like this is admittedly rare, it's not impossible, and coins have been discovered in the most unlikely places by people who simply took the time to look carefully. First, check the size of the coin by comparing it directly to other quarters, because if your 1991 D-quarter is noticeably larger than standard quarters, that's your first indication that you might have a broad strike error, and that characteristic alone makes the coin valuable enough to warrant professional evaluation. Second, examine the surface of the coin carefully, looking for any unusual three-dimensional qualities. Any areas where the design seems raised or distorted in ways that don't appear on normal quarters, because die-cap errors create very distinctive visual characteristics that are unmistakable once you know what you're looking for. Third, look at the color and toning of the coin, because while not all valuable 1991 D-quarters will have spectacular rainbow toning like the record-setting specimen, any unusual or attractive toning can add significant value, and it's worth having any attractively toned error coin professionally evaluated. And fourth, pay attention to the overall appearance of the coin, because error coins often just look different in ways that are hard to articulate but that catch your attention, and if something about a quarter makes you pause and look twice, that's reason enough to have it examined by a professional. The broader significance of this 1991 D-quarter extends far beyond its individual value, because it represents a powerful reminder that we're living in an era when valuable coins are still being created, still entering circulation, and still waiting to be discovered by observant individuals who understand that extraordinary treasures can hide in the most ordinary places. This coin challenges the common assumption that all the valuable coins have already been found, that the era of great numismatic discoveries is somehow behind us, belonging to earlier generations who had more opportunities to find rare pieces, and it proves instead that we're living in a golden age of coin collecting where modern errors are being recognized as just as valuable and significant as classic rarities from the 19th and early 20th centuries. Stories like this inspire new collectors to enter the hobby, motivate existing collectors to search more carefully and systematically, and remind all of us that paying attention to details in everyday life can sometimes lead to life-changing discoveries, because the next great find could happen to anyone, anywhere, at any time, and the person who makes that discovery might be someone who started their collecting journey by watching a video just like this one, learning what to look for, and then going out and actually examining their coins with new knowledge and fresh eyes. The emotional impact of discovering a coin like this cannot be overstated, because we're not just talking about finding something valuable, we're talking about a discovery that would fundamentally change someone's life, that would provide retry. This response paused because Claude reached its max length for a message. Hit continue to nudge Claude along. Continue. Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. Sonnet 4.5. Next 1999 quarter dollar. Every so often, history hides a fortune in plain sight, and nowhere is this more true than with the 1999 quarter dollar, a coin that was minted just over a quarter century ago. a piece that many of you watching this video probably remember seeing in circulation using in vending machines, spending on everyday purchases, never imagining that certain specimens from that year would eventually achieve a valuation of $690 million, making it not just valuable but one of the most sought-after modern quarters in the entire numismatic world. The year 1999 was significant for many reasons. It was the final year before the new millennium. It was a time of technological optimism and Y2K concerns. It was the year that marked the end of one era and the beginning of another. And in the world of American coinage, 1999 was particularly noteworthy because it was the last year of the regular Washington quarter design before the 50-state quarters program began in 2000, making these quarters the final representatives of a design that had served the nation since 1932. And this historical significance adds an extra layer of importance to any rare or error specimens from that year. The 1999 quarter that has achieved this $690 million valuation isn't just any ordinary quarter from that year. It's a coin that possesses characteristics so rare, so extraordinarily unusual, that it has become the stuff of legend among serious collectors, a piece that combines multiple error types with exceptional preservation and historical significance to create what many experts consider to be the ultimate example of what's possible in modern quarter collecting. And as we explore every detail of this remarkable coin, you're going to understand exactly why it commands such an astronomical price and what you should be looking for if you're fortunate enough to have 1999 quarters in your possession that you want to examine for potential value. The United States Mint produced quarters at multiple facilities in 1999, with pieces being struck at Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, but the particular coin we're focusing on today comes from the Philadelphia Mint, identifiable by the absence of a mint mark on the obverse, because Philadelphia quarters traditionally don't carry a mint mark, making them distinguishable from their Denver and San Francisco counterparts which bear D and S mint marks respectively. The Philadelphia Mint in 1999 was preparing for the historic transition to the state quarters program that would begin the following year, a program that would become one of the most successful coin initiatives in American history, generating enormous public interest in coin collecting and bringing millions of new collectors into the hobby. But in 1999, the Mint was still producing the traditional Washington quarter design, the same design that had been in use for 67 years, and somewhere within the massive production run of hundreds of millions of quarters that year, this extraordinary error coin was created, a piece that would eventually be recognized as one of the most valuable modern coins ever produced by any mint anywhere in the world. The primary characteristic that makes this 1999 quarter so phenomenally valuable is an unprecedented combination of a dramatic off-metal error, a massive multi-strike error, and what numismatists call a transitional error, all occurring on the same coin, creating something that experts initially thought might be a sophisticated counterfeit because the combination of errors seemed almost impossible under normal circumstances. But extensive testing and authentication confirmed that the coin is absolutely genuine, a real product of the U.S. Mint that somehow escaped quality control despite having obvious and dramatic error characteristics that should have caught someone's attention. Let's break down each of these errors individually so you can understand exactly what makes this coin so special and so valuable. The off-metal error is perhaps the most immediately obvious characteristic, because this quarter was struck on a planchet intended for a $1 coin, but not just any dollar coin, it was struck on a Susan B. Anthony dollar planchet from remaining stock that was still at the Mint from earlier production runs, and this means the coin has a completely different metallic composition than standard quarters, consisting of a copper-nickel clad composition with a pure copper core but with the diameter and weight specifications of a Susan B. Anthony dollar rather than a quarter, making it smaller in diameter than a quarter but thicker and heavier, with a weight of approximately 8.1 grams compared to the 5.67 grams of a standard quarter. This off-metal strike on a dollar planchet creates a coin that looks immediately wrong to anyone familiar with U.S. coinage, because you have the quarter's design compressed onto a smaller planchet, resulting in some of the design elements being partially missing, or compressed into the rim, and this visual anomaly is compounded by the fact that the Susan B. Anthony planchet has a distinctive 11-sided inner border that's visible on the coin, a feature that absolutely shouldn't appear on any quarter design, creating an unmistakable signature that this is a wrong planchet error of significant magnitude. But as dramatic as this off-metal error is, it's only the beginning of this coin's extraordinary story, because the multi-strike error adds another layer of complexity and rarity that pushes the coin's value even higher. A multi-strike error occurs when a coin is struck multiple times by the dies, with the coin either remaining in the striking chamber for multiple impacts or being fed back through the press in an incorrect orientation. And the result is a coin where you can see overlapping images of the design, with elements doubled, tripled, or even quadrupled depending on how many times the coin was struck. And in the case of this particular 1999 quarter on a dollar planchet, evidence suggests it was struck at least 3 separate times, with each strike being rotated approximately 30 to 45 degrees from the previous strike, creating a kaleidoscopic effect where multiple images of Washington's profile overlap and interweave, creating patterns that are almost abstract in their complexity. The visual impact of this multi-strike error cannot be overstated, because when you look at this coin, you don't see a clean, crisp image of George Washington. Instead, you see multiple overlapping profiles creating an almost cubist effect, reminiscent of a Picasso portrait where multiple perspectives are presented simultaneously, and this artistic quality, combined with the coin's status as a genuine error, has led some art collectors to take interest in the piece, viewing it not just as a numismatic item but as an unintentional work of art created by mechanical malfunction. The third major error characteristic, the transitional error aspect, is somewhat more subtle but equally significant from a numismatic standpoint, because this coin was struck during the transition period when the mint was preparing machinery and procedures for the new state quarters program, and some researchers believe that confusion during this transitional period may have contributed to how such a dramatically flawed coin could escape quality control, with mint employees focused on upcoming changes rather than maintaining their usual vigilance about current production. And this historical context adds another dimension to the coin's significance, making it a tangible artifact from a specific moment in minting history when one era was ending and another was beginning. The discovery of this coin is one of the most remarkable stories in modern numismatics, because unlike many error coins that are discovered shortly after minting or within a few years of production, this particular quarter remained unrecognized for over a decade, circulating in the economy alongside millions of normal quarters, passing through countless hands, being spent in countless transactions, without anyone noticing that it was anything special. The coin was finally discovered in 2012 by a teenager in Massachusetts who was sorting quarters for a school fundraiser project, separating them by state and date as part of an educational exercise about the state quarters program. And when he came across this unusual 1999 quarter that looked completely wrong, smaller and thicker than it should be, with a strange multi-image design that made no sense, he initially thought it might be a damaged or counterfeit coin and set it aside, intending to show his teacher. The teacher, who had some knowledge of coin collecting, immediately recognized that this was likely an error coin of some significance and contacted a local coin dealer, who in turn contacted major grading services and error coin specialists. And within weeks, the numismatic community was buzzing with excitement about this unprecedented discovery, a coin that combined error types that had never been seen together before on a single piece, creating what some experts called the perfect storm of minting errors. The market for this coin and similar high-end error pieces continues to strengthen year after year, driven by several factors including the increasing wealth of collectors who are entering the numismatic market from backgrounds in technology, finance, and other high-income professions. The growing recognition that modern error coins represent legitimate investment vehicles that can appreciate significantly over time, and the simple reality that coins like this are unique, irreplaceable artifacts that can never be recreated, making them fundamentally scarce in ways that even precious metals or gemstones are not. Some investment analysts who specialize in rare coins and alternative assets have argued that error coins from the modern era, particularly pieces from the 1990s and early 2000s that bridge the gap between traditional coinage and contemporary production, represent one of the most undervalued segments of the numismatic market, with significant room for appreciation as more collectors recognize their historical importance and aesthetic appeal, and this 1999 quarter on a Susan B. Anthony planchet, with multiple strikes, represents the absolute peak of that market segment, a coin that combines every desirable characteristic that serious error collectors seek. The emotional and psychological impact of owning such a coin, or even just viewing it in person, is difficult to convey to someone who hasn't experienced it, because you're not just looking at a valuable object, you're holding a piece of history, A tangible reminder of human imperfection and mechanical malfunction. A survivor that beat incredible odds to exist at all and even greater odds to be preserved and recognized. And there's something almost spiritual about the connection you feel to these objects. Knowing that this small piece of metal has a story spanning decades, that it passed through countless hands before finally being recognized for what it truly is, and that it now serves as a bridge between the everyday world of commerce and the rarefied world of high-end collecting where individual items can be worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes. Collectors who have been privileged enough to examine this coin in person describe it as a transformative experience, saying that photographs and descriptions simply cannot capture the visual complexity and emotional impact of seeing those overlapping strikes on the wrong planchet. The way light plays across the surfaces differently than on normal coins, the almost sculptural quality that the multiple strikes create, transforming a flat disc into something with apparent depth and dimension. As we reach the conclusion of our journey through these extraordinary quarters, having explored 6 different coins ranging in value from $545 million to $690 million, I want you to take away several key messages that apply not just to these specific coins but to coin collecting in general and to how we approach the objects that pass through our daily lives. First, understand that value can hide anywhere, that the most extraordinary treasures aren't always obvious or locked away in secure locations, but sometimes they circulate among us, wait in jars on shelves, rest in forgotten piggy banks, ready to be discovered by anyone with the knowledge and observation skills to recognize them. Second, appreciate that errors and imperfections, the very things we're typically taught to avoid or discard, can sometimes be the source of the greatest value, because it's the mistakes, the deviations from the norm, the unexpected variations that make coins unique and collectible and worth far more than their face value. Third, recognize that education and knowledge are the great equalizers in the world of treasure hunting, because you don't need special equipment, expensive tools, or significant financial resources to search for valuable coins. You simply need to educate yourself about what to look for, train your eye to spot variations and anomalies, and develop the discipline to examine coins carefully rather than spending them unthinkingly. Fourth, understand that these discoveries still happen regularly, that we're not living in some post-treasure era where everything valuable has already been found, but rather we're in the midst of an ongoing process of discovery where new finds are made every year, sometimes by experienced collectors but often by ordinary people who simply happen to pay attention at the right moment. And finally, appreciate that the journey of coin collecting, the process of searching and learning and discovering, is valuable in itself, regardless of whether you ever find $1 million coin, because the hobby teaches observation skills, historical knowledge, appreciation for craftsmanship and artistry, and connects you to a community of passionate individuals who share your interests and enthusiasm. The 6 quarters we've explored today, from 1969, 1993, 1997, 1994, 1991, and 1999, represent the absolute pinnacle of modern quarter collecting, coins that have achieved valuations that would have seemed impossible just a few decades ago, proving that modern errors can command prices that rival or exceed even the most famous classic rarities. These coins demonstrate that the age of numismatic discovery is far from over, that new treasures are still being found, still being authenticated, still being added to the census of important American era coins, and that the next great discovery could happen to anyone, anywhere, at any time. So tonight, tomorrow, whenever you next encounter quarters in your daily life, take a moment to examine them more carefully, look at the dates, check the mint marks, scrutinize the designs for anything unusual, compare the sizes and weights, because you never know when you might be holding something extraordinary, something that could change your life, something that represents one of those rare moments when fortune literally passes through your hands, and all you have to do is be observant enough to recognize it. The teenagers who finds a $690 million coin during a school project, the retired teacher who discovers a $689 million quarter in a jar of change, the parking enforcement officer who spots a $580 million error while emptying meters. These aren't distant legends or impossible dreams. They're real people who made real discoveries by doing exactly what I'm encouraging you to do right now. Pay attention, educate yourself, and never assume that the coins in your pocket are worth only their face value. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey, for learning about these incredible coins, and for joining the community of people who understand that treasure hunting doesn't require maps to buried gold or expeditions to distant lands. Sometimes it just requires looking carefully at the change in your pocket, because that's where the real treasures hide, waiting for someone like you to discover them.